So good morning, welcome to BCP Eastern Planning Committee on the 17th of April 2025. So I'll hand over to Democratic Services for some housekeeping.
Thank you. Please note this meeting is being recorded by the Council for live broadcast and will be published on the website for a minimum of 6 months. The meeting may also be recorded or streamed for live or subsequent broadcast by members of the public, although ultimate discretion in this matter lies with the Chair. For those in the room, please note if the fire alarm sounds, please exit the building by way of the nearest available signed fire exit route and make your way to the assembly point, which is at the War Memorial in the gardens opposite this building. Finally, please ensure background noise is kept to a minimum. Mobile phones and other devices are turned off or switched to silent for the duration of the meeting. For those in the room, this includes turning off microphones and turning the volume down completely on laptops. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So item 1, apologies.
So we've received apologies from Councillor David Flagg, Councillor Matt Gillett, Councillor Marion Lepedevin and Councillor Michael Tarling. And substitute members, we've got Councillor Adrian Chapman-Law here for Councillor Gillett and Councillor Tony Trent for Councillor Lepedevin.
Okay, thank you. So I'm Councillor Paul Hilliard, I'm the Chair of the Committee. I'll just ask the people in the room to introduce themselves.
Councillor Chapman-Law for Alderney and Bourne Valley.
Councillor Gillian Martin, Boscombe West.
Councillor Felicity Rice, Oakdale Ward.
Councillor Joe Salmon, Moordown Ward.
Councillor Tony Trent, Alderney and Bourne Valley.
Councillor Joe Clements, Penhill Ward.
Lawrence Williams, Councillor for Littledown and Ivford.
Toby Slade, Councillor for Muscliffe and Stratton Park.
Laura Sims, Planning Officer.
Tom Hubbard, Development Management Team Leader.
Okay, thank you. And Democratic Services is Jill Hollyoak. So item 3 is declarations of interest of any item we're discussing today. No, Councillor Martin.
Sorry, I live in the Boscombe East Ward and actually quite close to the property. Just
Okay,
in the corner.
thank you for that. And Councillor Williams, did you indicate like last time?
Yes, I do. I have objected in the past to properties like this.
Right.
But just to be clear, you're not predetermined on this one.
Not yet.
Okay, thank you. So now moving on to item 4 is confirmation of minutes of the meeting of the 20th of March 2025. Were there any comments to those minutes or are we all agreed? Those are agreed and approved. Thank you. So item 5 is public issues. So after the officer presentation, we will hear any public speakers followed by any other ward councillors who wish to speak. So item 6 is 27 Wolverton Road. Ms Sims.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, so the site is 27 Wolverton Road. They're applying for a change of use of dwelling house class C3 into a house multiple occupation C4, and I am recommending approval. 27 Wolverton Road is located within a residential area of Boscombe East and Folkestone Ward of Bournemouth. The site sits south of the railway and on the corner of Langton Road to the northern boundary and Wolverton to its eastern. The red line plan this is the red line plan shown. The garage to the west of the site has been removed, which was confirmed by photos taken by myself on a site visit shown later. And here you can see the aerial view in the street scene. The property sits on the corner where the cursor is now. To the left shows the elevation fronting Wolverton Road. The dwelling is detached with 2 stories and characterised by red brick and white detailing, as well as bay windows, which are distinctive to Wolverton Road. To the right shows the side elevation facing number 22 Langton Road. Here you can see that the garage has been removed. The site also has a large flat roof dormer with no windows to accommodate a second floor habitable space. The above map marks out the 100-metre area which was used to calculate the percentage of HMOs in the area. 117 properties were identified to be in the area, only 2 identified as existing HMOs, which is numbers 42 Wolverton Road and 18 Langton Road. Not including the proposal, this gives a percentage of 1.7%, so including the proposed site would give a percentage of 2.6%, which is well below the 10% laid out in policy CS24 of the Bournemouth Core Strategy. Therefore, the proposal is acceptable in this regard. BAP 8 addresses the character and appearance of the area, intensity to neighbouring amenities, highway issues and concentrations of HMOs within the Boscombe and Folkestone area. The proposal would not include any physical changes to the dwelling, therefore the proposal would not harm the character and appearance of the area. Regarding the cycle store, a condition will be implemented, so details of this are provided prior to occupation. Therefore, on points 1 and 3 of BAP 8, the proposal is satisfied. Further, the proposal would not result in any internal alterations causing harmful overlooking. No additional windows are proposed to the dwelling. Therefore, the proposal would not be considered as harmful to residential amenity and satisfy point 2 of BAP 8. The proposal provides off-road parking to the site, which was deemed satisfactory by the local highway authority. Therefore, the application would not result in unacceptable highway problems and complies with point 4. The above map is supplied within the Boscombe and Folkestone neighbourhood plan for policy BAP 8. The red stars show the existing HMOs. As you can see, there is a high concentration of HMOs to the west of the site, primarily around Churchill Gardens. As per point 5 in the previous slide, this would not result in an over-concentration of the area. The blue dot is the proposed site, which you can see here, which I've added myself. Within the near vicinity of the site, there is one red star identified by BAP 8, and then 3 further to the south, which are much further away from the proposed site and do not fall within the 100-metre area that CS24 states. This shows that the introduction of a HMO on Wolverton Road would not result in an over-intensification or concentration of HMOs within the area and would remain balanced and a mixed type of dwelling to the community. The floor plans provided show the dwelling would accommodate 6 people in single bedrooms, all of which are served by personal en suites. The dwelling would provide 4 large communal spaces with additional snug/office on the first floor. The second floor would be served by its own kitchenette and living space. The living conditions of future residents would comply with the national space standards and create a good quality of life for all residents. The use of the dwelling would remain as residential and the site would not be considered as harmful intensification to the plot. The dwelling is detached and set on a corner. Noise produced by the dwelling would be a result of residential activity and therefore not a concern. Additionally, the applicant has provided space for off-road parking and cycle store with details to be confirmed in condition. Overall, the proposal would not harm the appearance of the surrounding area and would not cause over-intensification of the site, complying with policy CS41 and BAP 8. So additionally, the proposal would not exceed the limits set out in CS24 and provide sufficient amenity space for future occupants. I recommend this application for approval. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. So, Ms Hollyoak.
Thank you. So in terms of public speakers, first we'll hear from the objectors. We've got Della and Leo Grisdala. If you'd like to come forward. You've got 5 minutes between them.
Good morning. I speak for all my neighbours who live in the densely populated streets around this development. All object vehemently to the approval of this application. Please hear their voice today. Over the years, Boscombe has become described locally and nationally as a deprived area. I truly believe the proliferation of HMO developments by greedy landlords has been a main contributor. A change is long overdue. HMOs contribute to a decline in the character of an area and are unpopular. They can destroy a mixed community of family housing like ours, and they hinder regeneration efforts. Allowing another HMO here will lead to increased social problems and to our neighbourhood being overwhelmed by transient residents. Long-standing residents, the glue of the community, will leave. According to the BCP register, we already have 13 registered HMOs in the streets not far from this property. Research has identified approximately 10 more unlicensed HMOs, which have been referred to BCP for investigation. Now, it's about the noise, the comings and goings of multiple tenants and their visitors at all times of the day and night. Disturbance from food delivery scooters, because sharing a kitchen with a house full of strangers to prepare your meals is very unpopular. Then there's lack of respect for the indigenous neighbours, antisocial behaviour, drug use, even criminal activity, petty vandalism, and a high density of people in a confined area, causing traffic and parking congestions. Local people say they hate these things. We have absorbed and tolerated the HMOs that abound around here so far, but another HMO of 6 tenants in our midst is out of order. So, I must remind the committee of the adopted Boscombe and Folkestone Neighbourhood Plan. It's a formal part of the Bournemouth Local Plan and must therefore be used to determine planning applications. The plan requires that the default position of BCP should be not to allow any more HMOs in Boscombe. The plan's vision and aim is to rebalance housing in favour of family housing throughout this area. 85% of residents agree with this aim and definitely do not want any more HMOs here. They are not needed. The need has already been met. HMOs need intense on-site management to avoid disrupting the peaceful enjoyment of local residents. There will be no on-site manager here. The landlords have no connection with our community. Their business is located 16 miles away. This property does not meet any housing need and is purely for the developer's financial gain.
This property is on a corner plot. Boundary walls and mature shrubbery were removed 5 years ago by West Property to create off-road parking around the narrow margin of the house. Currently, an Airbnb, up to 5 cars park on this gravel margin, overhanging the public pavement and illegally driving over the raised curb. Parking and traffic congestion is a major problem in our neighbourhood. More vehicles than available spaces often leads to illegal parking and the obstruction of essential services. Residents unable to park near their homes. 6 HMO residents with vehicles, plus their visitors with vehicles, 2 parking spaces, that equals gridlock. The bedrooms are not very big here, and the limited communal areas and outside space increase the possibility of tenants loitering on the street outside the property. When used as an Airbnb, drunken guests have attracted the attention of the police. There has been an arrest on the property, disturbing for the neighbours. Food deliveries will likely increase due to insufficient facilities for 6 households to prepare meals at the same time, etc., etc. HMO accommodation is not attractive to most, often the choice of adults who have few options. The Boscombe precinct is policed due to antisocial behaviour amongst males. There are 3 schools surrounding the location of this property where young pupils walk past twice a day. Local parents have expressed their concern to us about who might occupy this address. West Property have no connection with our community and have previously shown scant regard for local concerns. The development could have better served Boscombe if it had been developed as 2 separate flats, because people need real homes, not just a roof over their head. If they're able to settle and become part of a community, let's adhere to the BPNP. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And speaking in support of the application, we have Diana Parish and Adelaide West.
Hi, I'm Adelaide West. Just very quickly, there have been no arrests on our property of any kind. I'm Director of West Property Limited, and we are a small local family business in BCP. And in fact, our registered office now reflects this, and all of our properties, our rental properties, are and have always been within the BCP area. I've been a landlord in the BCP area for over 10 years, and I've run both 27 Wolverton Road and another property in BCP as successful Airbnb businesses with superhost status. I'm also a builder, and I help renovate and provide maintenance on all of our properties. We'd like to confirm that 27 Wolverton Road complies with HMO information contained within the Boscombe and Folkestone Neighbourhood Plan. We are in residential area 3, and we're less than 400 metres from the High Street, which is the preferred location for residential housing and HMOs. We also comply with CS41, CS24, CS19 and BAP8 within this plan. According to the plan, there are only 7 other registered HMOs in Area 3, and the Planning Department have already confirmed that, including our HMO, this would make 2.6% of houses within a 100-metre radius of us registered HMOs, which is 74% below the limit set out by BCP policies. Whilst we understand that there may be more unlicensed and unregistered HMOs within this area, we can only go by the council registered figures as per the BCP policies also already mentioned. As we're trying to register with you, These other HMOs and issues associated with them are not relevant to this application. We want to provide our tenants with good quality accommodation, and we see ourselves as part of the solution to the HMO situation within BCP. The more registered and good quality HMOs, the better, and hopefully this will help bring up the standard of HMOs as pleasant places to live. 27 Wolverton Road is a large house. Our smallest bedroom has 8.5 square metres of HMO allowable space. It's one of the bedrooms in the roof, so all the storage space is then extra and below the 1.5 metre threshold, and this also doesn't include the ensuite. The 75% of our bedrooms are over 12 metres squared. That does not include the ensuites either. And there is a further 10 and a half square metres per person of communal space, which is well above the HMO specs. I'll now hand over to Diane.
So I'm parish. I've been a landlord in Bournemouth for 19 years. I've never had any complaints about either my properties or my tenants. Our tenancy agreements comply with best practice tenancy management and are in full accordance with the Management of Housing in HMO Regulations 2006. This covers issues such as nuisance or annoyance to fellow tenants and neighbours, which is in any way illegal, immoral or damaging. This specifically includes noise and use of illegal substances. I think our neighbours may be a little confused at the difference between HMOs and perhaps rehabilitation centres. HMOs are homes for people who can't afford to live, buy their own property or live in a one-bedroom flat, which obviously they would prefer, but they can't. Whereas rehabilitation centres may have live-in supervisors, etc., HMOs normally don't. Unlike many landlords living outside the areas who use managing agents, we know all of our tenants personally. Several are nurses, we have teachers, care workers, got one fire service employee, physiotherapists, office and business managers. All are working professionals, responsible individuals and members of the local community. Given the continually rising cost of housing and comparatively elevated mortgage rates, we're offering high standard, affordable accommodation to people who don't have the means to buy their own property or rent a one-bedroom flat. There is excessive demand for the level of accommodation of this type in BCP, especially given the overcrowding statistics shown in the Boscombe and Folkestone neighbourhood plan. Finally, I can confirm that we more than meet every criterion listed in the BCP amenity standards for HMOs and have worked very hard to achieve this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Farquhar, you're the ward member.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the committee for deferring this matter to have a deeper dive with the inclusion and the specific inclusion of the BAP or the Boscombe and Folkestone Neighbourhood Plan. The Boscombe and Folkestone Neighbourhood Plan covers a very large area. It's those two wards of Boscombe West and Boscombe East and Folkestone. And the reason why it's so important to respect its sovereignty and the consideration of the committee in applications within its grounds is because it's one of those rare things whereby the whole of the community or the residents were consulted and it went to referendum and was voted on. So therefore a neighbourhood plan, even though it works in conjunction with the NPPF and local plans, it's very specific to that area. And the reason why I'm so pleased that it was deferred is because the neighbourhood plan steering group is actually working on the refreshment and the reapplication for the neighbourhood plan to come into being. And that will include, over the space of the next 5 years, or the previous 5 years, the experiences which were grown by applications such as this in how the plan can be enhanced and improved for the next 5 years. And it's one of these ones whereby it's a learning curve, perhaps for our planning developers and for our planning departments to actually ensure that the neighbourhood plan and the voices of those residents is actually heard because they've been consulted on and it's gone out to referendum. So having reviewed the neighbourhood plan, it's a case of that we may well find that a little over a year from now that there will actually be a community council in place in Boscombe and Folkestone due to the community governance review, which is actually ongoing and consulting on at the moment. So therefore, a neighbourhood plan will be essential and a key part of any decisions that local council would make, that community council in Boscombe and Folkestone. So that's the reason why I'm so grateful that it was brought to the deferral. I would call upon the committee to actually ensure that they've considered the BAP fully, but also they've considered the reasons for the previous refusal and also the withdrawing of the 2020 applications, which are actually outlined in your papers, and satisfy yourself that those reasons for the withdrawal and for the refusal have been addressed. It's not within the committee's gift to plan for the future of Boscombe and Folkestone, but your decision will certainly help improve the neighbourhood plan here. And I must thank the officers for the map which was shown this time, showing HMOs out with the 100 metres linear distance. The reason for that is because it paints a very good picture of the densification of HMOs. But you must bear in mind that these are registered HMOs. They're not unlicensed HMOs. And perhaps if the local planning authority had the ability to put a pin mark or a little star against those unregistered and unlicensed HMOs, it'd be a very different map and it would paint a very different picture. And that may well be useful to the committee at some future date. But I'm very supportive of the residents in battling to ensure that the neighbourhood plan is respected and sovereignty. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Farquhar. So, Ms Sims, was there anything from the comments made that you wanted to update the committee on?
No, I don't think so. It's kind of raising similar points. I've addressed all policy within all of my report and added the Boscombe Folkestone neighbourhood plan to my report, which it still complies with. As the map shows, there's not a high concentration of HMOs within the area of the proposal. So yeah, I think it all kind of was addressed within the report and within the presentation.
Okay, thank you. So, councillors, are there any questions to the report? Councillor Salmon?
So one thing Councillor Farquhar mentioned was the presence of unregistered HMOs and so forth. So it sounds like we've got no pre-analytic vision that paints a picture of that. Is there any way for us to keep tabs on that, antisocial behaviour, yada, yada, yada?
In terms, this was obviously brought up last time as well, in terms of the unlicensed HMOs, it's at the neighbour's responsibility to bring them to the council's attention. Obviously, we don't have that knowledge, so we just go on what we do have. So that's how we work and how we go through things. If things have been brought to our attention, then they'll be dealt with as such. In terms of antisocial behaviour, it's, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Hubbard, but it's not a planning matter in terms of that. But obviously, we would just expect residential behaviour within the residential area.
Just to follow up on that, if there had been reports of unregistered HMOs within that 100 metre radius, would they have, as a result of enforcement action, be showing up on that map as registered HMOs or have been shut down? Can we be confident that's what would have happened?
Yep, so if they'd been come through enforcement, they would be shown within the registered numbers that we use to calculate the area, if anything had come up. And if enforcement had happened and then they'd been removed as a HMO, it wouldn't show because obviously they're no longer HMOs. So yeah, that's how we work with the numbers.
Thank you. And just to be clear, the outline. So, how many in that 100 metre? How many houses is the threshold specifically?
The threshold under CS24 is 10%. So there are 117 properties within the area, so that would make 11.7 to be HMOs to break the threshold. So the 12th would break the threshold, but as identified by our statistics, this would be way under. It's 2.6%. So
okay, thanks for confirming. Okay, so if there's no further questions, if we go into debate? No. Okay, so obviously we've seen it. The BAP aid is the focus of the BCP Council. The limitation CS, which was a CSC 24, is introduced to limit HMOs in the area, and then an extra level is the bottom neighbourhood plan, which again strengthens and focuses on density. And as we've heard in the report, both those measurements are showing that the figures are well below the density requirements, and similarly the character of the building isn't being changed. The parking requirements are within guidelines, and there's cycle provision as well. So I can't see anything against policy on this. Comments?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm glad that this has come back to committee today. I think it's very important that it was required to do so, and for all the right reasons. And as you yourself have said, I think that everything appears to be in order and compliant with the various policies that have been mentioned. I really struggle with some of the well, I'm struggling for the words even. Some of the negative points that have been flagged up regarding HMOs, I think they are within proportionate amounts within a locality. I think that they are quite essential for our housing needs. Working people cannot afford even to rent on their own these days. The only way that they can afford to go to work and be responsible and respectful and respectable is by living in these types of accommodation. Nobody out of choice would want to live in one room. And I think that they are essential for our economy and for our businesses and our societies. Personally, we employ a lot of very hardworking, respectable, honest people who live in HMOs. So I can see the value of HMO properties in BCP.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Salmon.
So I thought it was interesting that we were asked to listen, because I think, unfortunately, the way this committee operates, we're not going to be able to. We've got to stick within the legal and policy framework, all of that. I mean, I've lived in an HMO in an area dominated by HMOs, and I totally sympathise with all the points raised. I think they're all correct. But in terms of BAP 8 and CS 24, I mean, we've all gone away, we've had a look at it. There's no reason to refuse the application on any of those grounds. So while some of us may share some of the concerns that have been expressed, I would like to reluctantly propose that we accept the application, because I can't see grounds for objection. Just for, I think it's important that officers monitor, the implementation of the development, for noise, for waste, all of that. And it's glad George has been here. He will obviously represent his residents. But yeah, I propose that we accept the application.
Okay, thank you for that proposal. Do I have a second to that? Councillor Cummins? Councillor Slade, did you want to mention anything? No? Okay. Councillor Chapman.
Just on a sort of a point on the numbers of HMOs, obviously the council don't know how many there are unless they're reported. So they need, if residents are suspecting that there are HMOs in an area, then you need to be reporting them to the council. And that's, that's all we can do really. But as Joe Salmon correctly states, I can't see anything within the policy that would allow us to refuse this, even if and unfortunately, as already been said, it's expensive to buy rent these days, and unfortunately, wages aren't representative of being able to rent a flat. So I'm going along with it.
Councillor Martin.
I'd like a bit further debate actually, because I noticed some of the points that were made by the objectors, and particularly when it was run as an Airbnb. when it was run as an Airbnb. I remember from the last meeting, somebody said that you'd actually got a situation where people were looking with binoculars, overlooking as an issue. You've got people in a very small place with nothing to do, stuck in one room. And I noticed that you said that the size of the rooms, one's 8.5 metres squared, 8.5 metres squared, the largest one's 12 metres squares. The one that's 8.5 metres square, it's probably about 2 foot by 4 foot. So 2 foot by about 8 foot. I was trying to work out the basically 3 metres. If it was 3 metres squared, it would be that. If it was 3 metres by 3 metres, it would be 9 metres squared, and it's smaller than that. And that's 10 foot by 10 foot. That's a very, very tiny room for people to be in. There's no garden for people to stand outside and smoke. So they're going to be out on the street smoking, which isn't good for children walking past. I just don't think it's a good thing. But I agree that we have to be bound by legal policy. But I just think I would like to see a situation where we actually defer this again for BPC to look how many HMOs are actually in the area. Some more have been pointed out that have just been reported, and give us time to investigate if they are indeed HMOs, because at the end of the day, if we go over the limit, then the problem is that people are already living in those HMOs. What's going to happen to them if they can't get a licence? Just a thought.
Thank you. Did you want to come in, Mr. Hubbard?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. On the point about the bedroom sizes, there is regulations. If you need a HMO licence, there are minimum bedroom sizes. I think it's about 6.5 square metres, I think, as a minimum. So it does exceed those standards. I mean, they are quite low standards, but they do exist. In terms of the point about other HMOs that we don't necessarily know about, I would say in this case we've got a fairly strong sort of margin of error, given that we've only picked up sort of 2 HMOs. You'd need another 10 to go over that 10% threshold. We do look at all the sources of information that are available to us, including sort of council tax records. We've been through those, site visits, HMO register, planning history. So, we, to the best of our ability, we're confident that it is under the 10% in this area.
And I think on your point, there is a rear garden. It might be small, but there is a rear garden, and again that gives the space. And I think what Mr. Hubbard has said, it's just a moving beast. You've got to put a point in a time. The application is here before us. The facts are here before us, and those are what we go by. Councillor Salmon?
Going to say we've got to stick rigidly to policy framework.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's not like me to say, oh, let's do things properly and all of that, but at the end of the day, if we refuse this based on personal preference, it will just cost the taxpayer more, won't it, in an increase in council tax rates. And to be fair to the applicants, they have done everything to the book. There is nothing wrong with this application as set out in the policy. We can't close the stable doors after the horse is bolted. If we didn't want to see applications like this approved in this area, then the neighbourhood plan needed to be written differently. And that's not something that we can do now as this committee. Yeah, I think we should get on and move to the vote.
Okay, thank you for that. Are there any last comments? Okay, so it has been proposed by Councillor Salmon, seconded by Councillor Clements to approve as set out. So if you're in favour of that, if you indicate now, please.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
If you're against that proposal,
None.
and if you want to abstain.
2. So that's 7 votes for and 2 abstentions.
Okay, so that approval is approved as set out. Thank you, and that is the only item for today, so that is the end of the meeting. Thank you.